Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Martin and this is Tech265. If this is your first time here and you're into tech gear reviews, unboxings, and filmmaking tutorials such as this video, then don't forget to hit the subscribe button and click the bell notification so that you're notified whenever I release my newest video.
Someone should have told you that I don't play. Don't be out here acting like it's okay. Homie, I've been at this from a young age. Funny how they panic.
Alright, so without further ado, let's get into this video. Now, this video is probably my first ever tutorial type of video. I usually do product reviews and unboxings, and yeah, it's pretty new for me, but I hope that you'll find this super useful. If you like content like this, let me know down in the comments below, and I will look into making more videos just like this one. So in today's video, we are going to be looking into Premiere Pro and how to get the best quality footage when you export your project. And I feel like this is such an important thing because when I first started using Premiere Pro, I would just export videos without really understanding who I'm delivering the video to. So we're going to look into all of that, what specific settings to use for your export depending on kind of the platform that you're going to use the video on. So pretty much a video for Instagram can be of a much lower quality than a video that's going to go up on YouTube. So let's get into it. Okay, so now we have fired up Premiere Pro, and I just have 3 clips. These are just like 3 generic clips from one of the videos, which I'm going to put out a little bit later. So the first step we're going to want to take is to make sure that we're in the editing tab. If this is not showing up for you, you can just go and hit the window option up there, go to workspaces, and then hit editing, and all of these will pop up at the top. Alright, so I've got my 3 clips in the project bin, and I'm just going to drag and drop them in the timeline to create a sequence. So as you can see, I have this sequence of just 3 clips of varying length and nothing special about them. So now our next step is that these clips were shot in 4K. We're just gonna go up to the sequence settings and just verify that our sequence settings match whatever we shot the video in. So the frame size 3840 by 2160, that's correct for a 4K video. If we wanted to downscale this video for whatever reason, we could. You can simply just type in those settings and change it to 1920 by 1080p, and that will change your dimensions. So just to show you, the video has become a little bit bigger. You can simply just hit the scale to frame size, and so this is now 4K video on a 1080p timeline. But I'm gonna go back to my sequence settings and I'm gonna change this back to 3840 by 2160. Alright, then basically you just go through the list and check everything else. Pixel aspect ratio, square pixels, not going to change that. Not going to change fields. Display format, we're going to display in a 24 FPS timecode basically, and we shot our footage in 23.976 frames per second as well, so we're going to set it as that. Now, working color space, Rec 709. Now the most important part we're going to talk about is the video previews, and this is what is going to make our video exports much quicker, and also we're going to get much greater quality. Under video previews, the default is iframe only MPEG, which is an okay codec for previewing files, but it's not necessarily the best. We're gonna want to change this to QuickTime, and under codec we're going to change this to one of the Apple ProRes settings. So if you don't know, Apple ProRes is basically just a codec made by Apple. It works really good, so we're gonna use Apple ProRes, one of the options in here. I'm not gonna go into too much detail, but basically Apple ProRes 4444, that's a lot of fours, 4444 is the highest quality that we can select. Now, I don't need super good quality for YouTube, right? Because it's YouTube. If I was delivering this footage to a client or something like that, then I would probably choose 422HQ or even 422. I would go with the proxy option, but it's still quite great, don't get me wrong, but it's a proxy, so I'm gonna go with ProRes 422 LT. And so we have changed our preview file format, and down here in the checkboxes we have maximum bit depth. I leave that unchecked. Maximum render quality, I leave that unchecked because these are just video previews. We're gonna hit this option when we're exporting the video. You're gonna see that very soon. And then this checkbox says composite in linear color, requires GPU acceleration or max render quality. I have that checked and I'll press OK. Then you're gonna get this little pop-up which warns you that it's gonna delete any preview files that you had of the timeline, and we're gonna click OK. Alright, now just for the purpose of this video being a little bit shorter, I'm just gonna chop my footage down a little bit. I'm just trying to get this to be somewhat a 1 minute sequence. Round about there, it's going to be a 1 minute sequence. Alright, so we've got a sequence of 3 clips that are about a minute long in total, and we want to export this in the best way that we can. The first step is going to be to render your sequence. So suppose that you have finished working, or even while you're working, you can render your sequence, and we're gonna hit enter because I set the hotkey to enter, or you can just come up here, click sequence, then click render into out. So that'll go through your video files, your footage, and it'll render them out. Depending on your project, this can take quite a little bit of time, so I'm gonna speed this through. Alright, and once it's done rendering, that is basically gonna give you a green line over here. That's to notify us that all of the clips in our little sequence have been rendered through, and we know that the preview files have been rendered to be QuickTime MOV files with the Apple ProRes 422 LT codec. So now we're gonna go into the export settings. You can click Ctrl M, or you can click File, Export Media. Okay, once that pops up, we have our clip. Now, I haven't made any changes to the footage. What I mean is that I haven't color graded or color corrected this footage. I haven't put any transitions or anything like that. So we're just gonna be exporting some raw footage just to see how long that's gonna take. Alright, now this is the most important part. Okay, we're going to click up here, and you could, if you hit match sequence settings, you can see what's gonna happen. It's gonna actually match our footage to the sequence settings that we have. So essentially that just helps you to quickly get the same export settings as what the sequence is. So you can see here it's selected QuickTime. You can do that manually if you like, so you can hit QuickTime, and then we're going to, under preset, we're going to hit Apple ProRes 422 LT because that is obviously what we selected, and you should check that there's no black bars or anything so that it matches. Now under here in video, let me just make this a little bit bigger. Under here in video is where we're gonna play around with some settings a little bit. So we're gonna check that our codec is correct. We want Apple ProRes 422 LT. Basic video settings you can hit to match the source, so that's just gonna make sure that the width and the height settings are correct, the frame rate is correct, and basically all the other settings are correct. And then render at maximum depth, I'm not gonna click that. Depth, I'm gonna leave it at 8 BPC, and down here is now our important part. So we're gonna use maximum render quality, and we're gonna use previews. Previews is going to use the previews that we created earlier in our sequence or our timeline, and that's going to give us a very quick export time, and let's just check that out right now. So I'm going to enter a location for my video to export into. I'm just going to name it export 1. hit save, and let's export that. Now remember, this is a 1 minute sequence, and once it's done, I'll tell you guys how long that took. Okay, that was a 1 minute sequence, and it took 1 minute and 15 seconds to export, which was pretty quick, I would say. And just for comparison's sake, we're just gonna go ahead and try and export this without using previews. So I'm gonna hit Control M again, and we are gonna untick use previews, and I'm gonna try export the video and see how long that's gonna take. So let me just quickly rename my output to export to, and gonna get my timer here. All right, we're gonna click export and see how long that's gonna take. So the first export took about 1 minute and 15 seconds. Let's see how long this is gonna take. Alright, so that export happened in a little bit more time, but the difference wasn't that much. It was just off by about 4 seconds. So it was almost reaching 1 minute 20 seconds, but it probably won't make a difference for just a 1 minute sequence. But when you're exporting like very large projects, it will definitely make a difference when we have some color grading in here, when we have some text and animations and all that type of stuff on top of the video. So now we're not actually done yet. There is one extra step. We're gonna go ahead and fire up Adobe Media Encoder, because essentially what we need to do now is put our footage into a much easier form. You're gonna find that, let me just minimize this and maximize this. So we're just gonna navigate to the video which we exported, which I remember I titled as export 1. I'm gonna go ahead and drag it here, and essentially this is gonna be a very large file. So if I reveal it in my Explorer, you remember that this file was only about 1 minute long, or rather the video itself is only a minute long. And let's try and figure out how big this 1 minute file is. So if you look at it, it's 2.4 GB, which is absolutely massive for just a minute of video. But it's because we have actually exported this in a very good codec. So what we need to do now is actually export it a second time in H.264. So I'm gonna go up here in my format and select H.264, and Adobe Encoder has all these presets for all these different social media sites, including YouTube. We know that our video is 2160p in 4K, so we're gonna select that. And then down here we're gonna make sure that our basic video settings are correct. You can always hit match source if you are quite unsure about kind of the height and width that you want to export at. So that's okay. Under encoding settings, we're gonna make sure we select hardware encoding. It's gonna take advantage of your graphics processor, especially if you have like a dedicated graphics NVIDIA processor or AMD processor. It's gonna take advantage of those, so you definitely want that. Under bitrate settings, this is also an important part. The default settings are actually set to 40 megabytes per second with VBR1 pass. I don't think a constant bitrate, which is CBR or 2 passes, is quite necessary for something that's going to go up on YouTube, so I keep it on VBR1 pass. And then from there, I'm just going to slightly increase the target bitrate to round about 52. The original bitrate was 40 megabytes per second, so I just increased it a little bit. Now I will go ahead and tick use maximum render quality, and we can go ahead and check that our output name is what we want it to be and the video is going where we want it to go. And you can see that the size has significantly dropped from about 2 GB to just under 500 megabytes, and this is gonna still be a very high quality video for YouTube just because of where we started out at. So yeah, let me go ahead and press OK, and you can then click this little icon over here, which is to start the cube, and we're gonna wait for that to encode. Alright, and that brings us to the end of our tutorial. So basically we have learned how to export a video in a very high quality setting, and that's gonna, oh, my light just went off, the line in the background. That is basically just how to export a video for YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. If you're not subscribed, please do subscribe. Please like this video if you found it useful. Don't forget to comment down in the comment section below. Feel free to ask me any questions that you may be having, and also don't forget to give your suggestions for further videos in the future. Thanks so much for tuning in. This has been Martin for Tech265, and I'll see you in the next one.